Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Friday, but more importantly, Flavor Friday, because this is going to be the first Tinto flavor, which is going to be featuring a whole bunch of different flavor mechanics from the upcoming game, which is, secretly titled Project Caesar, but its real title is going to be Project Teaser, and we are going to be seeing a whole bunch of different things. We've just kind of skimmed through it, really excited to read through it, and so without further ado, let's get into it. We also have other good news. Hello and welcome, everyone, to the first toast in the new toast. It is a toast, but also a post in the new series, Tinto Flavor. It will be a Happy Friday. We get the first ever Happy Friday from Pavia. Very big nice as well. He's on board now. He's like, happy salutations. It's flavor time. Let's go to Flavor Town. It will be the first Happy Friday in which we will be sharing with you the flavor content we are adding to the super secret Project Caesar. But before we start, for the map lovers, we will continue the Tinto Maps review, although following an irregular schedule. Fair enough. Today, we won't be looking at any country, surprise, but instead I will talk about the types of flavor that we can have added into the game. But in doing so, we will reveal some stuff about some countries, how it works, and how we approach it, although you may already have good insight from previous Tinto talks using specific examples. The specific examples, of course, we will get some teases, as it were, which is why the game's name is Project Teaser, of individual countries' mechanics based on this. This way, we will share with you a clearer picture of all the different scripted content assets available in-game and how we use those assets. So let's start first with looking at all the different elements, and then we will be talking about each of them individually, and that's a lot. We have international organizations. I think like an example, well, we're going to get an example, so let's just get through this. Situations, disasters, ooh girl, you are not a disaster, you a situation, events, government reforms, laws and policies, estate privileges, advances, parliament agendas, parliament issues, works of art, characters and artists, new characters and artists, that's our favorite. Better than characters and artists is the newer ones. Everyone knows it's better if it's new. Character traits, character interactions, air selections, buildings, units, ships, oh my, cabinet actions, diplomatic features, casus belli, peace treaties, subject types, subject interactions, and religious features. That is quite a lot. I was actually literally about to say that's quite a lot. It is. This makes for a very varied menu in which we can pick different elements that fit better for the content of each country or region, making it diverse enough. I will be linking each flavor asset related to its related Tinto talks, so you get a clearer view of how they work, and also if it also of how it's all coming together. Indeed it is. We started working on our first spreadsheet for Europa Universalis 5 as a result of having all of the kind of information about the terrain features. But towards making all these features a part of a cohesive game system, so let's start checking them. International organizations, I think this includes banks, this type of stuff. There are plenty of international organizations, both unique and generic. They may also appear throughout the game, either organically or by some game mechanics, or as scripted content. We see the Gulfs? Not sure how it's pronounced. The leader gets additional monthly prestige, fair enough. All members get, so the leader of this organization, that is, all members get clergy estate satisfaction equilibrium, burgher estate satisfaction equilibrium, yes. Excluded from imperial protection, yes, yikes. We get 19 members, including the Kingdom of Naples, Papal States, Republic of Mantua, Bologna, Ferrara, mispronounced enough of those to make everyone mad, and Italy is divided in 1337 into two rivals IOs, the pro-papal Gulefs and the pro-imperial Ghibellines. Not sure how that's pronounced, but this will be an international organization that is supporting a split. The clergy and the burghers are going to get more power wrested from the nobility, because proportionally we're taking it from the nobility and the crown when we're giving it to the clergy and the burghers, and this will reflect the kind of separatist faction, as far as I know, that was in the HRE. All right, let's continue on. A situation. No, it's not, Susan. It's a different type of situation. Situations are content creators that allow narrative content to affect different countries at the same time. They usually have some actions that can either be performed in the situation panel or that are unlocked by the situation, e.g. diplomatic or character-related actions. And they may also be triggered by other types of content like events or disasters. We see the Nen Bokucho Jirai, which is, of course, my pronunciation is terrible. Following the dismantle of the Kamakura shogunate and the restoration of the imperial rule under Yamato Godaigo Tenno, with the help of Shogun Ashikaga Tagiuchi, something, in what is known as the Kenmu restoration, the two former allies were quickly turned into rivals. Yamato wanted to restore the supremacy of the imperial rule like it was in the Heian period, which earned him the discontent of many of the warrior class, including Shogun Ashikaga, that later was pushed out from the capital and forced to flee to Kyushu, but was able to return to Kyoto in 1336 and seize it, establishing a new Japanese shogunate under him and enthroning a new emperor. In 37, Yamato fled the capital and established his own court at Yoshino, starting the period known as the Nanbokucho Jidai, the northern and southern courts. And I'm guessing if you want to play as Japan, you will be navigating this situation as one of the many, countries that are going to be a part of it. It will trigger Japan the first month of the game, dividing the country into two sides, one supporting the northern court and the other supporting the southern court. Okay, we see disasters. Oh no, the crisis of the Yuan dynasty. No, the emperor long divided must unite, united must divide. Oh no. Disasters are usually a negative type of content that impacts one's country. In Project Teaser, they get a separate panel in the UI that can be used to interact with them, although we'll show them in a future Tinto FLAVOUR. Of course, Flavor Flav. We get the crisis of the Yuan dynasty, which of course is going to be, China, where we get monthly war exhaustion, monthly inflation, yikes, monthly rebel growth, and monthly celestial authority change. All of this seems like a bad thing, and we need to have this happens if we have a celestial authority of 20 or less. The heaven grows dark and gray. Shout out to the heavens. At the cusp of losing divine favor, internal and external pressure grows. Crumbling bureaucracy and agricultural failures have tipped the scale against us. The people no longer recognize us as the legitimate rulers of our dynasty. Oh no. Crisis of the Chinese dynasty is a unique disaster for China. So this is, of course, going to be China flavor, and it is, since it's just dynasty, I assume you can proc it multiple times if you have different dynasties. That can happen multiple times through a playthrough to represent the fall and replacement of the imperial Chinese dynasties. We'll talk more in future depth about the Middle Kingdom, IO, and all the content we have created for China, and how the assets interact with each other. I'm guessing there's going to be a whole lot of stuff for China. Generally speaking, in these map games, China and Japan seem to be extraordinarily popular, along with, the Byzantines and, Germany and, these types of ones. But I imagine we are going to see a lot of content for these guys, and this is an example of one of the content is the disaster. Ooh, girl, you a disaster. All right. Shout out to the Yuan dynasty. Next up is events. The humble event is the most common type of content presented in game, as we have already some thousands of events scripted and implemented. That is some language to refer to what you've done, because look, if it was 1 or 2,000, you would probably say over 1,000 or over 2,000 or something like this. In my mind, some thousands implies over 3,000 events, as a minimum figure, and maybe 10,000 as a maximum figure. But that is a lot of different events. There are two types of events. Two types, as in other Paradox Grand Strategy games: random events and unique events. The second type, the most common, is the dynamic historical event, DHE, also well known in other games. We see invite German settlers. This seems like a good idea, I guess. Due to plague and war, our country is mostly depopulated and a small number of peasants are spread very thin over our vast territories, making activities that require huge amounts of workers, like reaping the harvest or clearing new lands, very difficult to accomplish. We can invite new settlers and artisans from the German lands to come and create new towns in our holdings by providing them with help and special privileges, like the right to be ruled by their own laws and low taxes. Welcome them. Help them settle directly. We don't need more foreigners. Okay, who is this going to be? This is a recurring event that can happen with countries with a capital in Eastern Europe that have enacted a specific privilege for the peasants. Okay, so we're a little bit more privileged on the peasants, and then we get invite German settlers to portray the late medieval Ostdeutschland. You have 3 options to deal with them. The last one would directly revoke the privilege, and no more German peasants would be invited to migrate to your country. So generally, population seems to be the backbone of kind of everything in these games, so I assume you would want to invite them, but maybe the trade-off's not worth it. Okay, next up is government reforms. Government reforms define the shape of the country, thus being a very valuable flavor asset. Man, we do love flavor with the extra U. Of course, this is there's 2 types of spelling. There's the correct spelling, and then there's the British spelling. And so the British spelling tends to use additional and extra letters. We do see flavor has the additional U. However, with a word such as flavor, and of course being facetious, I think the British spelling is fine. It's just important that you use the same, whatever spelling you use, it's important you just use the same spelling throughout. So you should always use either always American or always British. But with a word such as flavor, I actually wouldn't mind, sprinkling in a little extra. You spell everything in American, and then wha-cha, you slip in a U in flavor, and you're like, look at this, it's like spice. Very flavor. Glamour's another example where we like to include the extra U just for effect. That was a tangent that nobody needed. But anyways, especially the unique ones. It's also one of the ways we used to hook permanent modifiers, as there aren't many sources in this game. So we see government reforms, unjustified war on the same religion cost, minus 15%. Yikes. Anatolian Beylik is going to allow you to, kind of go around smashing people of the same religion. Gives us an extra cabinet seat. Monthly aggressive expansion. This seems like a good modifier for unifying stuff. Situated in the turbulent region of Anatolia, we have emerged after the decay of the Sultanate of Rum, whose border we used to inhabit. Hardened warriors and capable bureaucrats make up the base of a robust government. The Turk Beyliks rule over Anatolia, and it unlocks other interesting content, such as the unique succession law. But this is going to let you blob out pretty strongly, and the cabinet seat is going to let you hold everything together. That makes sense. Turkey starts out in a very strong position in Europa Universalis 4, but that's not Europa Universalis 5, which of course is coming. We don't know when it's going to be. We actually have no idea. It hasn't been teased yet, but perhaps it'll come sometime after Project Teaser, which of course is the next game that we're looking at here. Okay, these jokes will never get old, except for everyone who's watching. Okay, laws also define a society, that indeed they do, and we have several of them spread over 5 categories. Administrative, religious, socioeconomic, estate, and military. And you may already know that each of these laws have different policies to pick upon, some of them being generic and others unique ones. Interesting, unique laws, okay. We see military law, the Order of Chivalry. We will see that this has several different, allows the following policies. We see a bunch of different ones of these. St. George, their mind, dragon, etc. And can establish and nobles levy size. Rooted in the blend of religious and courtly traditions, this law enables a legacy of knights dedicated to Christian ideals and charitable missions. Originally founded to protect Holy Land, pilgrims, and uphold vows of poverty, obedience, chastity, these orders have transformed over time, honoring the distinguished individuals and becoming a prestige symbol. So you can pass the law, you will have an order internal to your country, a chivalry order, nobles' levies will increase, you will get one of these. And here you have a unique military law for European countries, the Order of Chivalry. It always unlocks a unique policy, which is country-driven. So here, for instance, we have the Castilian Order of the Band, instituted by King Alfonso the 11th, the Avenger, in 1332. Note this work progress content, so obviously not all the chivalry orders will be available, only the ones that we've implemented so far. Makes sense. So some of the European ones are going to get extra noble levies, this type of thing. Okay. Here next we have estate privileges. There are several privileges that you can grant to the estates. These might also interact with other forms of content, either being unlocked or unlocking them, which makes it key to select them wisely. This almost sounds like this is like mission tree, but estates unlock tree, where you have to weave through, kind of different branches. But okay, we will see the Libro de Oro will give us a 5% happy people. That's what we assume that means, and plus 10% electricity. Okay, I forget what the electricity symbol is going to mean, but monthly progress to aristocracy is also going to be boosted here, and pop promotion speed is going to be hindered. The Great Council of Venice had many rules that decide who is being worthy of a member. The Libro d'Oro contains a list of families that meet these requirements and call themselves the Patriziato of Venice. This book was published in 1317, and only a great quantity of gold influence make changes over it. Okay, so this is a privilege that is given to the aristocracy. It's going to make some people happy. I don't know what this is about, but it is a starting estate privilege for the Venetian patri. We're not going to pronounce that again. It gives 5% estate satisfaction, okay, and 10% estate powers to nobles. It is power, just not the type of power we were thinking. I wonder, I assume that's a placeholder. I wonder if it's going to drop with the lightning bolt. But plus a couple additional modifiers, it also triggers a recurring event that adds new noble dynasties to Venice, making the nobles even happier at a certain monetary cost. It might be costly to get it revoked, though. That is 100 of, justice juice. And so maybe that's not worth it early on, but eventually maybe you want to get it through, kind of become an Italian republic. All right, let's look at the next one. We also have advances, which is their equivalent of tech. But let's go. Also, Humble Advance is the second most common flavor event after event. Flavor content after the event. There are plenty of unique advances, usually from 1 to 3 per age in those countries with unique ones, plus specific regional advances, plus specific religious advances. So if we're playing Spain, we might have like 3 for Spain, and then, or Castile, 3 for Castile, 1 or 2 for religion, and then 1 or 2 for Iberia, this type of thing that will give us, kind of some unique advantages. And this is like the crux of, increasing replayability and really making a lot of different playstyles different, is having a bunch of different content for a bunch of different areas. In this one, we get the Epic of Sundiata, which gives plus 10% army morale. It tells us of the legendary campaign of Sundiata Keita, the founder of the Mali Empire and hero of his people. In my head, this was Spain. I was so confused. His story is passed from generation to generation and has always been a great source of inspiration to our people. One of the starting advances of the Mali tells the tale. Okay. Next up, we will have Parliament. There's parliamentary agendas, parliamentary issues. As part of the mechanics for Parliament, we're getting agendas and issues. These can also be unique and adapted to the situations experienced by different countries. These can be unique and adapted to the situations. Okay. We will see the Presbyterian Education Act, which appears to be an agenda, which is going to give us monthly progress to humanist and monthly progress to free subjects. That sounds like my kind of parliamentary agenda. If we unlock, we will get a policy. We will change societal values towards innovative and free subjects. If the debate fails, we will move towards traditionalism and serfdom. And in either case, we lose 7 stability. We should establish a school in every parish of our country to further the education of our people. Rawr! They shall also be run by members of the church and be paid a tax laid upon the landowners of our country. The Presbyterian Education Act is an act of parliament issue available by Scotland if they embrace the Calvinist religion. As you may see, it impacts societal values of the country and also unlocks a new available unique policy for the education of the masses law. So we will see, the unlocking the policy, we'll see. The Presbyterian education, which it doesn't tell us exactly what that does, but that will also, we assume, be unique. And so maybe it's easier, if it's easier to go humanist and free subjects as some countries, and the humanist and free subjects, kind of cultural values play a particular way, which we assume they do, then you're going to, again, unlock different play styles or different timings on your play styles. Like, maybe being able to go humanist and free subjects earlier means you will play differently earlier, even if you play that humanist free subjects play style either way. And so the timing, having different timing windows is also interesting, and hopefully gives, interesting decision points. We see works of art. There are plenty of scripted works of art in the game, and more from the DHEs. Besides randomly created ones, of course, this will make the game more immersive. You will be able to recognize a bunch of them, and they will also have effects available, or effects described in the Tinto talks. We see Inju, which is from Korea? Or, well, we see this and we just think it means Korea, belongs to the scripture type of work of art, is long-lasting impact on Korean culture, oh baby, and is marked by the great condition, which gives more benefits than, say, an average work of art. Yeah, get ready for them to throw shade on which authors they think were bad, from antiquity and such, but this is going to be a work of art for us. We will see characters and artists. I am super excited for characters, especially philosophers. There's a lot of philosophers during kind of this time period, especially in the Enlightenment, French, the Enlightenment thinkers preceding the French Revolution, all very, kind of important in philosophy, this type of stuff. Super excited to see them. We see characters, also a bunch of artists. Leonardo da Vinci falls into this time period, so does Nietzsche. So character traits, although Nietzsche kind of barely does. Character interactions, heir selections. Actually, if the game ends in 1836... Nietzsche actually wouldn't fall into this time period. Big sad. We have a ton of historical characters, not only at game start, but also appearing throughout gameplay with DHEs. Besides that, character traits and interactions are completely scriptable, making it easier to add new types, as it happens with heir selections. Thus, we have a bunch of unique ones. We see unique inheritance here, partition. If the succession type... Oh, man, partition. It's like introducing the CK3, hair tearing out type of succession. If the type of succession law is monarchy, in which the ruler is the oldest male child, and the previous rulers of all other male descendants receive rights to minor titles and territory, female children can never inherit, etc. When a new ruler rises to power, the least controlled provinces of the country get further divided penalties to their... Oh, so we're going to have a control penalty instead of losing provinces, as they are divided between the brothers of the new ruler. Interesting. So it's going to be abstracted in control, rather than breaking up your empire, which is really kind of the struggle in CK. But okay, this will be our inheritance main. We will see score for male, score for age. We will see a number of people in line. Shout out to Albrecht, fourth in line. He's a big baby. Partition inheritance is a unique succession law that is unlocked by having an active estate privilege for the nobility, the right to inherit, which is only available to countries of the German culture group. This is one of the historical reasons behind the fragmentation of the lands of the Holy Roman Empire, as principalities used to be split amongst heirs, thus creating several branches of the same dynasty. A good example of this is the game starts with Wittelsbach, the ruling imperial dynasty, spread over several different countries, like Brandenburg, the country shown above. I wonder, it didn't sound like they were going to partition stuff out, but decreased control is definitely something that you're not going to like. We see next is buildings. As shown by Johan, we have several different types of buildings in the game, but more importantly, we have Happy Friday. Shout out to Happy Friday. We can also have unique ones that are either unlocked by conditions, e.g. playing as a country with a certain religion or culture, other content assets, e.g. government reforms, or events. Very cool. And we see, this is the one big one we saw while scrolling through, kind of skimming over it. We see that you can build Versailles, which was an absolutely huge palace, just monumentously enormous. We see that it's going to give us cultural tradition and cultural influence over time. If the capital benefits. If in the capital benefits. Bro, this is the capital. This is the capital building. This is the palace. This is built by the Sun King himself, if I'm not mistaken, Louis XIV, or perhaps just greatly expanded by Louis XIV, rather than having like a separate building for all of the government to operate out of. Instead, the government came to him, and so his palace was also the governmental seat, and he was the last king, as far as I recall, in terms of French history, that was well looked after. A part of that might have been that they spent a whole lot of money on that palace, and then when the peasants started starving, they said let them eat cake, and then yeah. But the palace was really nice, yeah. And we see that it will cost a whole bunch of ducats. Default building time is 360 days. Requirements for construction, all this stuff. I still have kind of questions regarding exactly how build time works and if it influences costs. And I'm still curious, if you increase the building time by 50%, do you increase the cost by 50%? I was trying to figure that out looking through the last Tinto talks where they showed all the different terrain types, because if that's the case, then it's really important to build up in certain areas. And if it's just a delay, then it's not as important. But the Palace of Versailles is a major complex of royal residences with several salons, halls, chambers, a chapel, and even an opera. Diplomats and members of the high circles come regularly to the palace to do their bidding with French royalty. This is an example of an event-created building, the Palace of Versailles. It is not created automatically, as you need an upfront cost of 500 gold, some materials that are taken from the market in Paris belongs to, and a default building time of 360 or 1 year. That's not a year. There's an extra 5 days, my guy. The benefits of the... Actually, that's interesting. I wonder if there's only going to be 360 days a year in Project Caesar. That would be interesting. I mean, I guess you could just make every month 30 days, right? Is that what's going on here? Alright, fair enough. The benefits of the building are increased by cultural tradition and influence, and employs a lot of nobles. You need to have them occupied. It does make sense. This is how you kept your friends close and your enemies closer. You just had them all come to your house to run the government. Besides the generic type of units that compose an army, we also have unique ones that, again, are completely scriptable. Really, the way modding is going to happen is going to be so excited. I'm so excited for any sort of Lord of the Rings overhaul. They are usually available for an age, and afterwards, when a new unit type appears, it's up to the player to either upgrade them or keep them. We see Elephant Cavalry, shout out to Hannibal, which are going to have some costs up here in terms of elephants, weaponry, other types of things. It's going to give us monthly, kind of decay on the manpower, and it's going to have, some amount of strength with which we do not have context to evaluate, but we see green numbers and red numbers, which of course makes us very happy. We will see that it will have better impact in certain areas of the terrain. Interesting that it performs better combat in the jungle. This is probably not a North African elephant, because I'm pretty sure they were actually kind of not really around by then. The timeline went wrong in the 164 BC. Tragic. The elephant is a massive animal with far-reaching tusks and thick hide. Its ability to traverse any kind of jungle gives the elephant a significant advantage in a very present niche of India. Elephant cavalry is a type of cavalry unit available for Indian countries, not Carthage, because Carthage was salted. That's the worst. It has some interesting stats and employs a lot of elephants, logically, which are only present in Southeast Asia, as the African elephant was not employed in warfare for our games period. Yep. It is a unit that performs very well in jungle terrain, thus making it very valuable in southern India, but not much use in the, not as much in the Gangetic plain. Okay. We will see ships, everyone's favorite. We do love our boats. Similar to units, there will also be unique ships. We see a Catalan galley. We see some requirements in there. We see frontage, hull, cruise, cannons, etc., movement speed, maritime presence, which of course is important for establishing control and increasing trade, blockade capacity, combat initiative, flanking, and anti-piracy impact. You may have seen the ship before, but not its stats nor its flavor description. What's its flavor description? An original invention of the Iberian Mediterranean coast, the Catalan galley dominated the western Mediterranean Sea in fierce competition with the Genoese galley for the supremacy of the waves. Alright, next up we have cabinet actions, which is an interesting one to think about. I wish we had the broader context of looking at these next to all the other cabinet actions, or like all the other things, but we're getting to that. I'm assuming that some of the Tinto flavors, that we might have a single Tinto flavor for each of these, and right now they're just introducing all of them. But we will have certain countries may have unique cabinet actions for various reasons. This is not a feature that we use that much, as we need to keep the game balanced. The available number of cabinet actions with the available number of cabinet positions, but in general this is introduced as an interesting trade-off. You may usually not be able to use all the cabinet actions you want to at the same time, therefore having to prioritize which to perform. Having a scarce resource and then having to decide how to spend it is better than, in my opinion, this is more interesting than getting something like an advance, where you just unlock it, and okay, you do have to make a decision point when you research it, but it's a little bit less of a dynamic decision point, because once you have the research or the advance, you just have it, rather than ongoing cabinet actions, which are also more flexible. I assume the upfront cost of sending a cabinet member to do something is less than researching a tech. We will see support farms in the north or east, and we see Finnish and Swedish. Migration attraction, monthly development, we love that, and population growth, 2%. That sounds pretty good. Sweden has a unique cabinet action at the start of the game that helps to colonize the vast lands to the north and east, mostly inhabited by Sami and Finnish SOPs. But, man, aren't those areas Arctic? They have some very significant, terrain penalties. But okay, we see next up is diplomatic features, which is going to be diplomatic actions, casus belli, peace treaties, subject types, subject interactions. All these types of diplomacy-rated features are also scriptable, which means we can have unique flavor for all of them besides all the generic actions. I mean, this sounds like a modder's wet dream. Literally everything we've gone through, it's been like, yeah, this is completely scriptable, completely scriptable, completely scriptable. And this does seem like quite a bit of stuff. We will see demand Samantha status. Suggest they become our Samantha and we will protect them. So this will be a unique subject interaction. We see that they're not going to accept this anyways. But this is going to be, I assume, a subject ruler interaction. Here we have two unique features. The first is the diplomatic action demand the status. As you can see, I'm trying to perform it is at Delhi against Orissa. The second is the Samanta itself, which is a type of subject unique to countries in the Indian culture group. Okay. Next up, we will have religious features. Religious features are a mix of hard-coded and scripted features. The second allows us to add unique flavor to the that intersections specific countries with religions that they historically worshipped. We will talk more about religions in the future. Tinto talks during the year. During the year, that's vague, isn't it? There are a lot of those. But this, does this imply that they're going to announce this year? During the year. It's always hard to... So they obviously are very cagey about announcing any sort of timeline of what's going on. I personally am of the opinion that the game will not be released this year, and it will be at the... I mean, this is kind of what I thought a while ago, but Q2 of next year at the earliest. But I also am not very knowledgeable about that type of thing at all in terms of games being released. People just sometimes ask me about it. And so I don't really know what the timelines looks like. They still haven't announced it yet. But we do see a unique kind of thing here. We see Ibadi with the religious school, where we will get plus 0.1% population growth, and then view of... Zaidi as kindred, believers believed to be descendants of al-Khawarji, who were first supporters of Ali ibn Abi Ali Talib, but later rejected the arbitration. The Ibadi school distanced themselves from the al-Khawarji following the Abd Allah ibn Abad, man, so many things that I don't know how to pronounce, taking a more moderate approach and more positive view towards different Muslim branches, despite having similarities with other schools. A little spoiler here, religious schools are a scriptable feature of Islam. More about that in future Tinto talks, though. In any case, so we'll have a lot of different schools of Islam. In any case, this is kind of like the tail end of Islam's golden age, kind of towards the start of the game. And so... expecting to see them quite a bit more powerful than, EU4 start date. More about that in future Tinto talks, though. In any case, here you have the Abadi school, which is unique to the countries of the Abadi region. Thus, this is the starting religious school of Oman, one of Jordan's favorite playtesting Johan's favorite playtesting countries. Okay. So now that we're done with the different types of flavor content, let me add an addendum. Surely you would add an addendum about a couple of topics, as I think that they would be thoroughly discussed in the comments in any case. The first topic I want to address is the modifier inflation. Yes, this is a topic that is on many people's mind. It is also on my mind because Victoria 3 super avoids modifier stacking. Generally speaking, relative to EU4, this seems to be a very, very strong design pillar for Victoria 3 is we're not going to modifier stack. And so there's a bit of tension between wanting to have unique flavor that influences gameplay, right? And then not wanting to modifier stack, because generally speaking, the unique flavor that influences gameplay has to be a modifier of some kind. And so you're caught between like a rock and a hard place in some regards, and sometimes you have to make decisions. And one of the real shames is that anytime you make a decision, you're going to upset some people. You like can't please everyone, and everyone's always like kind of, I feel really loud about complaining about it, and they say you're making a really obvious mistake in this one direction. I personally think stacking and mixing modifiers is very interesting. I would generally prefer modifiers that interact with each other in synergistic ways, as opposed to stacking a bunch of modifiers on top of each other to try and get the biggest modifier possible. So when like percentage modifiers are additive and they're like reducing cost, generally speaking, that's like less interesting than saying, we have this thing that scales up burger power and this thing that gives you a payoff for burger power or something like this. But yes, we have a bunch of modifiers in game, as it's not always possible to unlock other content features or more mechanical flavor with our content assets. That is having a separate mechanic as a system of flavor. Although we usually really try as unlocking, let's say, a new succession law by adopting a new government reform makes for a great organic contest. However, we're trying to limit the amount of modifiers that you can stack. Also, if the modifiers stack multiplicatively, they suddenly get really weak, or considerably weaker than how people stack modifiers in EU, and maybe this is the way to do it. We at Paradox Tinto may have some PTSD regarding this due to the latest phase of development of EU4, lol. Yeah, which of course is the precursor to this game. So the content assets that would usually give you permanent modifiers are those structural assets of your country has, such as government reforms or policies, which you may want to change to get different modifiers. However, we aren't going to give permanent modifiers by conjunctural assets, as let's say DHEs, which instead only give temporary modifiers. This in general makes Project Caesar a game much less based on stacking modifiers and more about interacting with the different mechanics. This sounds good to me. I think we kind of need to see it a little bit more in terms of when people are trying to solve what you can do. So like the real... Specifically, cost reductions should just not stack additively. And that's the way they always mathematically stack in the game. But like there's like instances where you can get minus 100 cost of various things in like EU4, and it just leads to like absurd situations because it's effectively the negation of a mechanic that is gating the player in some way. But I'm not sure exactly what they mean by DHEs, because I forgot what this acronym means. So, and the government reforms and policies, which you can change, but there's no permanent modifiers, or they're trying to avoid permanent modifiers. Okay, I mean, this sounds good to me. I think it's certainly on their radar. I do think that there's a bit of tension, and just saying, oh, we're not going to do any of it, leads to every country feeling exactly the same, because you have to give modifiers somehow. But okay, the second topic is the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room? You mean the fact that there are no more North African elephants employed in war because of what happened in 164 BC? Is that the elephant in the room you're talking about? Missions. Okay. You may have noticed that this is the usual flavor content used in Paradox Grand Strategy games that we haven't talked about. Well, I can't disclose any details yet, as Johan will be in charge of that in future Tinto talks, but what I can say is we don't consider them to be a part of base flavor content of any country. We don't consider them to be part of the base flavor content of any country, differently to the content shown above. Interesting. So we're not considering the mission tree to be... we're considering mission tree to be integrated in this as maybe part of events, and will be present in the game, but in a different way. Therefore, in the Tinto Flavors post from now on, we will be focusing on the base country flavor as shown above, and we won't be discussing missions, as that will be a topic for the future. Okay, when I played a lot of EU4, it's just kind of when the mission trees were kind of starting to pop up, and I wasn't there for like the later development of the mission trees. And so it's been quite a period of time, but I know that they've become pretty important. I guess they're abstracting that in terms of events when they're talking about it, but they're going to talk about it later, not now. And that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed it. Next Friday, he bolded next Friday. bam, next Friday, not Happy Friday, but it is a Happy Friday, I will be showing the content of a specific country, starting with Florence. Ooh, that's exciting. The Medicis, or Medicis? Michis? I think it's Medicis. I think that's Florence, which will be our regular weekly schedule from now on. So we will be getting Tinto Flav every Friday. Big nice. So I hope you guys enjoyed. It was quite a bit of a long one, looking through all these different aspects of flavor a little bit. Hopefully we didn't have too many long asides, except we did. But if you liked, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a Flavor Friday.